Sounds good. Get started.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. In the chat, I am posting the link to the workshop website, and it's got all the material that I'm going to be talking about today. And so today's topic is more Git. The first two sessions of these workshops, I showed you how to link up RStudio, Git, and GitHub or GitLab, and also GitHub Desktop, which, despite the name, will also work with GitLab. And today, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going, just a moment, stopping here. Brian says he can't hear me. Anybody else having that problem? Before I blather on. Okay, Jeff says he's fine. Okay. Okay, Brian, sounds like it's just you.
So he can try connecting via the phone only, where he's using the computer and then he uses the phone.
All right, excellent. Okay. I'm going to keep going. Sounds like Brian needs to set something up on his end. All right. So, so today I'm going to talk about some more, they're not really advanced things, it's kind of more things to do with Git. And these are things that you can start thinking about doing once you're really comfortable just doing your standard commits, pulls, and pushes to your remote repository. So let me review a little bit of really basic terminology in Git to remind you. So a commit is you've made a change, maybe a series of changes, multiple files, and you're going to basically tag that change and write a little note about it and put it into your history of your code changes. So that's what a commit is. It's something that you're doing locally on your local repository. A push is you are pushing those changes, along with all the comments about them, up to your remote repository. So that's either going to be on GitHub or GitLab for this workshop's purposes. A pull is if there are changes on that remote repository and you're going to pull them in to your local repository. Okay? So that's what a commit, push, and pull is. Okay, so when you start using, okay, so just to break a moment before I jump into the material, remember, as usual, go ahead and put comments in the chat, and we'll stop periodically and read those and address those before I change topics. And if anyone else who's watching the chat can answer the question, by all means, jump in and answer that. This is a community effort, so don't feel shy about answering questions in the chat if you know the answer, or if you don't know the answer but you have some ideas. Okay, so here. Okay, great. So we're going to start off first with a merge conflict. And so I'm going to be starting with the problem and how to fix it. And the reason is that we might get merge conflicts while doing this. I'm going to be doing all this live, and I want to show this first. Also, in my experience, when I was learning how to use Git, merge conflicts were something that were really frustrating for me. I didn't know how to fix them and wasted a lot of time. And they're actually quite easy to fix, especially if you're using GitHub Desktop, which is what I'm going to mainly show. And so getting back to the platforms that I'm going to use, I'm going to be using both Git in RStudio, but also GitHub Desktop. And I find that GitHub Desktop just makes everything a lot easier. And so that's why I'm going to show it. Just creates a lot fewer problems, and I almost basically never have to go to the Git command line if I'm using it. If you're using GitLab, the setup with GitHub Desktop might be a little harder. I don't use it a lot with GitLab. I do use it with GitLab, but not a lot. But I would say that if you're using GitLab, the effort to set up GitHub Desktop to work with GitLab will pay off, because it's going to make things a lot easier. All right, so let's jump right into merge conflicts. Oh, sorry, one more thing before I get started. I'm going to be illustrating all this with this repository right here. So I'm going to be doing this live. I've practiced this a couple times. Hopefully I don't get myself into too much trouble doing this live. All right, so merge conflicts. So what is a merge conflict? So what's going on there is that you have a change in your remote repository to a file. You have a change to the same file in your local repository, and Git can't figure out how to merge those, and so it gives you a merge conflict. When would you get a merge conflict? So if you, let's say when you wouldn't get a merge conflict. When you wouldn't get a merge conflict is if the only local repository you had was on one computer, and you never made changes directly on GitHub or GitLab. You only used that one computer, and you talked with that. So in that situation, you would never get a merge conflict. There would never be a situation where there'd be a change on the remote repository, and that wasn't on your local repository. So these merge conflicts are happening when a change is made to that remote repository that's not coming from your personal local repository. So this can happen definitely if you have multiple people, like you're working in teams. Okay, so that situation. But it also would happen if you are working with your remote repository, if you're committing changes from two different computers. So I personally am going to run into this with every repository I work with, because when I'm at home, I am working on one computer. When I am at my desk at the center, I'm working on my desktop. So I always will have my local repository on two different computers. But you could also run into this if you made a change directly on GitHub. And then in that situation, you're going to have a change on GitHub that's not on your local repository. And that's what I'm going to illustrate to you. I'm going to create a merge conflict, and we're going to solve that merge conflict so you can see exactly how it's done, get some of the mystery out of how to solve these merge conflicts. So let's jump right in and create a merge conflict. So I'm going on to new package. I'm going to go to hello.r, and I'm going to get okay. So within GitHub, I have the opportunity to directly edit files here. I don't recommend this, by the way, because this is one way you can get merge conflicts, and merge conflicts are a hassle. So it's better not to do this. But for the purpose of teaching you about merge conflicts, I'm going to create one here. So I've got this. I'm just going to say, add some more text to this. There we go. Add thing. I'm just going to stick with the default because I'm just illustrating this. In my real work, I would not be using default commits because I use those in my work to refine things that I'm doing. But for the purpose of the class, I'm just going to accept the defaults. So, all right. So now I've committed that. And let's go over to, I'm going to jump over to GitHub Studio. All right, so here's my file there. So the change is not here. Why would it be? I haven't pulled it in. I haven't done anything. Still on GitHub. And now I'm going to make a change here. Okay. And it's different change. There we go. Okay. And now you can see it right here. I could commit here, but I'm going to do this in GitHub Desktop because it's going to make it a little easier. Okay. Great. So in GitHub Desktop, what I was doing there is this tab over here. You can see all your repositories. As you can see, I manage a lot, which is why I use GitHub Desktop. So I'm going to go here. And in GitHub Desktop, nice thing, this little blue button here is telling me that I've got some changes that I haven't committed yet. So I'm going to go ahead and commit that change. As I said, I'll just accept the default, so now I'll do that. Great. Okay. So what do I see in GitHub Desktop? I see that I have a change up here. And let's try to fix that. Okay. So what is it telling me? It's telling me that I have a change on GitHub, and I haven't fetched that yet. So this isn't pulling it in. It's just sort of telling GitHub Desktop about this change. So let's go ahead and fetch that. So nothing bad's going to happen now. Great. All right. So now I've fetched it. Now GitHub Desktop knows about this. And now we can see we have the potential for a problem. You see up in the top there, we've got the arrow going up and the arrow going down. What that's saying is that there are changes on GitHub that need to be pulled in, and there are changes locally that need to be pushed up. That doesn't mean there's a conflict. Maybe they're in totally different files. We know they're in the same file because I just did that. But, you know, in general, you don't know. And this could be okay. But this is the situation. This is what you're going to see right before it's going to complain about a merge conflict. So let's go ahead and pull. All right. So now it's telling us that we got a problem. We got a conflicted file. We have changes in hello world, and we need to resolve these. And this is showing one of the reasons why I really like GitHub Desktop is because it gives me a lot of options of how to deal with this before I decide what I'm going to do, right? Nothing has happened yet. No changes to files have happened. I can stop and I can think about what I want to do. So, okay. The the options here are cryptic, and I put these on the website desktop. I took like a screenshot of this, and I've made notes of this. So don't feel like you need to like try to remember all this. I've written everything I'm showing you is written out on the workshop website. Okay, so here are the options. What I could do is I could click right here, and I could go fix the problem. And it's I'll show you how to do that. This is really nice feature is it says open editor, but a different option, if you click that little arrow, is you can pick which one you want to use. So sometimes what you know is you're like, oh, that's right, I put that up there from that work from like a week ago, but then I went a different direction. And you know, you can go on GitHub and look at that and it's like, oh, I don't want that one. No, I want the one that is on my local file. So you need to know that origin master is the remote, and then master is your local one. So you can select which one you want to use. So that's one way to deal with it. Makes that really fast. If that is, in fact, what you want to do, you know which one you want. Okay, so that's an option there. And then the next option is you could just say, oh, abort, don't make any changes, and then I'm going to go in and fix my files. It's not going to show you where the problem is, but sometimes that's the best way to go. So let's go ahead and click this. I think either this or this should resolve all changes. Oh, okay. So it's not going to let me click that. If I try to commit the merge, it's like, nope, 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 can't do it. I don't know how to merge these changes in. You've got to fix them. You need to do something. So I either need to click this, or abort. So let's go ahead and click this. All right. And now we can see that hello.r has changed. How do we know it's changed? Because we can always look right here and see the changes. And we can see that Git has added this to my file. So let's go into, now I went back over to RStudio and I'm looking, and you can see that Git has done this. And that's where, when you see that the first time, you can be like, oh, headache, no, why did you change my files? It's actually really helpful because it's showing you exactly where the differences are. And your task is to go and fix all these instances, get rid of all these things. And it is showing you exactly where the difference is so you can compare the two. And so this one, head, is your local repository. That's what you've got there. And this is showing you what's on the remote. And you can decide which one you want. So it's actually really helpful. And it's really nice that it has these long things here because you can do searching for that within the file. And you can find all the cases where there are differences. All right. So in this case, what we need to do is we need to just get rid of these. We don't, it's not like you have to say, oh, I accept this one and I accept that one. That's not what's going on. All it is you need to get rid of these. That's what it's looking for. And get rid of this. And I've decided that I just wanted this message. Something totally different. So you see, it wasn't like I accepted one change or another. I changed my mind and said, no, I don't like any of those. I'm going to do this third thing. I could do that, or I could have, accepted one or the other. The key thing is I got rid of those things that say head and then the other, like equal, equal, equal. That's all I'm doing there. So now I've done that. I'm just going to ignore this because we're going to work in, I'm going to show you how to do this in GitHub Desktop. So now I've done that, and I'm putting here that I'm fixing that merge conflict. I told it how to resolve it. Boom. Okay, and now that is it for dealing with a merge conflicts. You don't need to be scared about them. It happens there. And you're just going to go through, and you're going to go through that file where the merge conflict is. It's going to tell you exactly where it is, and then you're going to get rid of those headers and things in the file that were put in there by Git. At that point, you can merge. So it's actually quite easy. And this shows you too, like why I am committing and pushing all the time. So as I work throughout the day, whenever I make a change to a file or a series, like maybe I'm doing something that requires changes to multiple files, I'm going to commit that quickly. So it's not like I'm doing my commits at the end of the day. because I certainly wouldn't want to get in the situation where I'd be dealing with multiple merge conflicts. So that's one thing. The other thing is I don't run into merge conflicts very often because as when I'm starting work at the beginning of the day, I will open up GitHub Desktop, and when I look here, it will tell me which ones have things I need to pull in. It doesn't update these little arrows immediately. It seems to do it kind of overnight for me. But definitely when I look in the morning, I'm going to see which ones I need to pull in. So you can see here that I manage a lot of repositories. And so this is a huge help for me to know exactly the status of all my repositories, get everything up to date before I start working during the day. And those are repositories I'm just working on by myself. Okay, so that's how you work with merge conflicts. And if you're doing a merge conflict within RStudio, you're not using GitHub Desktop, then read the notes on the website, because there is something a little funny. Oops. Let's see if I can read it here. Okay. So you see how that is a check mark? So that's what you want when you are committing changes. And when we have a merge conflict, I don't want to duplicate this on time, but you're going to see this if you run through the example I show, and then you look at what happens here. What you're going to see when there's a merge conflict is this is just dark blue. It's completely filled in. And all you have to do is go up and actually click it like that till it becomes a check mark. It's really weird behavior. And if you didn't know you had to do that, you would think that you couldn't resolve merge conflicts in RStudio, and that's completely untrue. It's absolutely easy in RStudio. You just need to know to sort of keep clicking on that. So just follow those instructions on the website if you want to do it in RStudio. All right. Okay. So I got to look at the questions, and then I'm going to move on to branches. Okay. Nope, looks like no questions. Got it. Excellent. Okay. So let's move on to working with branches. All right. So when you start out with branches, back up. What is a branch? So so you have your local repository. Let's say I want to go off and do some work on a file, and I could just be putting it right into master, but my repository is working fine, and I want to test some changes. So I don't want to break my main repository while I'm working on this file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check out a branch to work on that file, and that branch is going to be a complete copy of my local repository. When I'm done with that branch, I'm going to merge it back in. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do. And I suggest when you're starting off to work with branches, keep it simple, do it like that. Start off working with one file. And I actually would say, like, make a little repository, like, my new package, and try all these things out on a little demo. So you get used to it, and just start with a really simple branch workflow when you start out. When I'm working with branches, like I'm working on a major software package, like right now I'm working on a major release, and I have a branch for my new release version, and that branch is like tons of different files, and I've got like a whole different version on that version of the software. I'm doing all the testing on that branch. So like my branches are going to be multiple files. But for you, when you're starting, don't do that. Start simple, just one file. All right, so let's see how to make a branch in RStudio. We're going to go over to, here we go. All right, so this little icon here is the new branch icon. If we wanted to do that in GitHub Desktop, sorry, I'm just going to. So if I wanted to do that in GitHub Desktop, I just do branch here, and it says new branch. So let's do this in over here, though. This is where I'm working on my code. Okay, so I'm going to give it a useful name. Do not call your branches something like temp or something cryptic. You will forget what the purpose of that branch is. This one says hello branch. It's for this hello file, so that way I remember exactly what it's for. Sync the branch with remote means create that branch on the remote, and that is generally what you want to do. We don't need this information. Let's close that. There we go. All right, so now up here we see we're on that branch. Excellent. So let's make a change, and we'll see how this works. Okay, before I go on, once you start working with branches, you need to train yourself to always be aware what branch you're on. This is very important, and there's a training period for yourself to get used to getting on that Git tab and looking what branch you are on. You want to make sure you're working on the right branch, because otherwise you're putting the changes in the wrong place. And this is why I say start small, okay? Because if there's a training period for yourself. Okay, so I'm getting started. Great, I'm on the hello branch. If I were on the wrong branch, if I were on master, it would say master. But I don't want to be there, so I get over to hello. RStudio will remember what branch you're on. So when you get out of your project, it will remember where you are. So that's helpful, but it's always good to check. Okay, so let's make a change here. So let's see here, and hello branch. There we go. Save it. It's over here. Let's go ahead and commit that. Actually, before I commit that, let's go ahead and try. So let's try to switch over to master. What would you allow that to happen? Let's try to show you. Okay, I don't know why that happens. Let me try that again. Close. Sorry. Okay. Let's reset here. We are going to go over to hello branch. And I'll put my change here. Hello branch. I'm going to save that, and now I'm going to commit that change into the hello branch here. So that's committed. And we have that hello branch. Now let's go back over to master. And you can see in the master branch that change is not there. So we've got the change in the hello branch, but not in the master branch. And we can just keep working on our files in this branch. We could work on any of the files. We don't just have to work on hello. We can work on all of them. But like I said, start out small, just work on one file. Okay, so now I have this change on this branch, and I haven't pushed this up to GitHub yet. So let's look here. So you can see here in GitHub Desktop, it's nicely telling me with that little arrow there that I have a change locally that I haven't pushed up. So this is another nice feature that I like about the GitHub Desktop. Really easily shows me when I haven't pushed yet. So let's go ahead and push that and see how this looks on GitHub. So now I'm here in the repository. And we can look here. I now have these two branches. I have hello branch right here. And if we go into hello branch, you're going to see the changes there. Okay, we've got our hello branch. All right. So now we've made a bunch of changes, and we think we're ready now to merge these two. So how do we do that? There are a few different ways that you can do that. I'm going to show you first the traditional way, and that would be you put in a pull request. So before I put in the pull request, I probably want to look at my branches and see how things look here. Let's see. Okay, so here's my branches. So first I want to just kind of get an overview, and I can see, aha, okay. So I'm one commit ahead of master. That's pretty good. And master is not ahead of the branch. So what does that mean? What does that jargon mean? So that means that there's one change in hello branch that's not in master, but there aren't any changes in master that aren't in hello branch. So in the real world, like if you have one person working on a branch and one person, say, working on master or working on a different branch, you know, you're both two people working on different aspects of the code. Those two people might be yourself. You might be doing, you know, working on one part of your code here and then another part of your code. So you would probably want to pull in the changes from master into hello branch before you do the pull request, just to make sure that your hello branch is still working with any changes you made in master. That's what's going to happen, like when you're using branches a lot. When you're first learning, don't make any changes in master yet. You just get used to making a change on the branch and pulling that into your master. Get comfortable with that first. So that's what we're going to do. We have not made any changes to master. We've made one change to hello. And now what we're going to do is we're going to pull this change into master. So remember, we didn't have that change in hello world in our master. It's only in hello branch. So let's go ahead and make that pull request. And nicely, it's going to tell us, hey, there's no problems. That's good. So that means there's no conflicts between files. Nobody was changing hello.r in the master that we have to deal with. And so we're just going to say what we're changing. Pull request. And there we go. Green is good. So we can go ahead and merge that. Further merge. All right. So that's done. It's in there. Let's go look at hello.r. There we go. So it's got that hello branch in there. So now I have merged them back in. So that's it. That's making a branch, making the change, and merging it back in. If I'm completely done with the hello branch, I could now delete it. All right, so I just was working on GitHub. So that means that all these changes are on my remote repository, but I haven't pulled them into my local repository yet. So what I'm going to want to do is go ahead and fetch that. Okay. Okay, so what just happened here is I'm on hello branch. The change wasn't made on hello branch, it was made on master. Let's go ahead and hop to master, fix that. Okay. So there, now you can see the merge pull request. And now when I go here and I go on to the master branch, see, I'm on master, I see the hello branch here. Okay, so that's the basic procedure there. And let me look at the chat if I have some questions here. Okay. So there's some questions from Lisa about having to do like a second pull request. Second pull. Okay. So if you're trying to like this, if you feel like there's like this weird workflow where you're having like pull a bunch of times or push multiple times, what I would say is trying to go back and work with a really simple example and figure out what's going on with your workflow there. That, you know, maybe like you saw, I was having, I kind of was starting, I didn't notice that I was pulling from the hello branch, and then I switched over to the master and I got the right pull. So for me, that's why I had to do two pulls, is I had merged something into master. I needed to switch over to master and pull from master. When you do this pull, it's not going to pull every single changes from all the branches. It's just going to pull whatever branch that you are on, either in Git on RStudio or Git on GitHub Desktop. So you just need to pay attention where you're at and try to just sort of think about what you're trying to pull in. All right, so what do raw and blame mean? I'm going to get onto that at the end. I will keep running forward on some branch stuff here. So I'm going to make another change to my branch and show you some other features that you can use in GitHub Desktop. So I'm going over, and now I'm going to switch over to hello branch. And okay. That in, I'm going to I'm not going to fuss with that here yet. I'm going to switch over to master. Okay. All right. You need to commit my changes before I switch. Usually, when I've worked with Git, I'm pausing here because normally RStudio would complain that I should have committed changes. So I was a little surprised that it didn't. So I'm going to go ahead and commit this change. I'm in the hello branch. You can show me I put change 2 here, so let's go ahead, 2. Great. Now I'm going to run over to master. And I'm going to make a change to this one. So I'm making a change to a different file. I'm going to commit that change. I'm showing you a little bit odd workflow. I wouldn't normally be jumping around branches like this, but I want to demonstrate how you can compare branches. Now I'm going to jump over to GitHub Desktop. And I'm going to show you a nice little branch feature here under this tab. So now you can compare branches. So we can compare to here. And you can see the differences between the branches. So in this case, this is different with hello. And I can also do this merge. So what I could do here, so remember I said that I showed you the traditional way that you can merge changes is a pull request. You can do that, but if you're using GitHub Desktop, you have this nice little feature where you can merge changes in. So if I click the hello branch, it will merge one commit from hello branch into master. So you could do that right from here. You don't have to do a pull request. Normally, I would do a pull request just because it's going to make it, because I'm making a whole bunch of changes on my branches, pretty complex things. So I am going to want to have lots of notes and stuff. But there are situations where I would use this feature. And I would definitely use this feature if, like, I am doing something on master and I just need to keep up my hello branch updated. So I will pull the changes from master into hello branch regularly, say. So, like, let's get over to hello. So this is where I'm kind of fussing with something. Let's say I'm working on, say, a print function, but I'm also doing some other major work on the master branch. And then I could go merge. And so you see I've made some changes in master and I can merge those into hello. I personally need to keep track of what's going on. I need to know what those commits are. So I could do this. So I've just merged that in. And what that does, I can look here. You can see I'm on hello, and it tells me exactly what change it just merged in. So I pulled it in like that. So that's a nice little feature there. It's a bit easier working on things, on your branches when you use GitHub Desktop. Okay, so that's it for my branch material, branch basics. Like I said, go ahead, get started with that. Let's start small and really get used to working with them. And then when you're done with a branch, you can get rid of it. There's no reason to save a branch. Once you've finished with that work and you've merged it back in, once you start new work, create another branch. So I personally may, like on my big software right now, I have, I think, 3 active branches going on, and eventually they'll get merged in. There's kind of two types of work that's going on, and it's kind of I'm careful to keep this work separate. So I may be working on one aspect of the code, and then another branch is working on something completely different. And that way I make sure I don't have conflicts when I try to merge things in. Okay, let's go. Very quickly, I just want to show you issues, and then I'm going to jump into getting rid of changes. So that's a really nice feature of working with your repository. It's something you'll want to do sometimes. Okay, go here. Okay. So the issues feature in GitHub, GitLab's the same, is very useful, and I really recommend just start getting the habit of using that. Whenever you find something, an issue that you're working on, throw it in there. The issues are for you, could be anything. Put it in there, and show you an example, a real example. So this is what I'm working on right now. And you can see, you know, just kind of throwing in whatever issue is coming up. And then another nice feature about this is that when you throw that in there, put in an actual code to recreate that error exactly. And that is going to save you so much time. You can recreate it exactly, lots of different comments. Here I'm commenting, and I'm just talking to myself, but it's my record of what's going on as I, you know, discover more about why this is, and then, you know, figure out, okay, you know, in this case, I decided, okay, that's not going to fix. I haven't quite closed it yet. I haven't totally decided if I'm done with that, but eventually I'll close it with some comments. I can reopen it later. When you're in your commits, you can add a hashtag. I could add hashtag 74, and I could say that commit is related to that. Another nice feature within GitHub and GitLab is the releases feature. So in GitHub, it's going to be over here. And the release can be anything. It's just documenting your code at a particular place and time. And you draft that, and then that is going to create this zip file of the source code. And the cool thing about this is if you're making R packages, you can install that version. So this is really nice if, like, you're working along, you're using GitHub or GitLab. All this works for GitLab too. Let's say you're working in GitHub on your code, and you're developing a new thing, but you want people to be able to install the last stable version. So you create this, they can always install that stable version. If you look at the README for Mars, you can see the code for how somebody will install an R package from a particular release. If you're not doing R packages, it's going to be the same feature for other types of packages hosted on GitHub. GitHub is not just for R, it's for any kind of code. You have these same features for features by meaning being able to install from the source code for other types of programming languages. All right, so now we're going to go to the last topic, which is getting rid of changes that you have made. So I would say that this is an area where I trashed my repository so many times at the beginning because I would be like, I don't want that change. I want to go back in time. And I would get on Google and I would see how to do that from the Git command line. And I would jump in there on the Git command line, and I would mess my repository up in a way that I couldn't solve. And I trashed things enough that I was so frustrated, spending so much time trying to fix it on the Git command line, that I would just go and get my repository at some earlier point in time, throw away all the work I'd done, and start from scratch. Yeah, so I have a lot of experience in that in the early days. I don't do that anymore. That basically never happens. What I'm going to show you are just some basic ways to get rid of changes without going onto the Git command line and messing things up. So that's sort of my warning there. Be very careful about going on the Git command line unless you're really familiar with it. And like now, I can work from the Git command line. I know, like, oh, that's dangerous. I don't want to do that. But I still, even now, I avoid the Git command line just because, like, it's something. It takes a bit of time to really get comfortable with it, and I have other things that I could put my memory and time knowing, and I don't, with GitHub Desktop, I don't need to go on the command line. So let's see how you can get rid of changes. Okay, so let's go. I can work on the that branch. That's fine. So I'm going to make a change to hello branch here. And then I do some other work. Oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, how do I get rid of that? I want to get rid of that. So if I open up the Git here and I just click that, and I just say revert, yes. Boom. It's gone. So that was it. So I hadn't committed it yet, so that was super easy. The one thing to be aware there is that it's going to revert it all the way back. Okay, so notice where this is. Okay, so hello branch change to. I'm going to go here. So maybe I want to get back to here. But, 3. When it reverts back, let's see where it goes here. So it goes back to the last place where I had committed. Right? It's not like this isn't like Control Z where you're just getting rid of the last change. It's all the way back to the last commit. Okay. Now, what if you have made the commit? So I am going to show this in GitHub Desktop. On the website notes, I'm going to talk about how to do this within RStudio, but I'm going to show this in GitHub Desktop while I'm teaching. So go on to the notes if you want to see how to do this in RStudio. So I'm going to go ahead and commit my change. And let's say after I had committed a change, I decided, oh, I don't want that. So the changes here, ignore the arrows. All that's meaning is I haven't pushed it up. It's irrelevant for this. The thing is that when I click the history, that's there, and it's there in history because I committed it. If I hadn't committed it yet, it wouldn't be in the history. But I've committed it, so it's in my history. And what I want to do is I want to get rid of that. So all I do is I click on that, and I do revert. And now it's going to get rid of that. Let's see what happens. And there. It shows in the history that I have reverted. So that's it. That's how you revert it. One thing to keep in mind is I reverted an entire commit. So this is why, another reason why, if you're doing a whole bunch of changes, you don't want to do a whole bunch of unrelated changes in one commit, because that's not going to help you later. What if you have to like undo a commit, and then you want to have to undo everything? That would be really frustrating. All those changes. Okay. All right, so the last thing I want to cover on that is this situation where you did have a commit where you have a whole bunch of changes to a bunch of different files, and you just need to go back to one file. So this is where you might be tempted to just jump on the Git command line, and you could do that, and as I said, you can cause problems. In the notes, I kind of show you how you could do that with Git going on the Git command line. But I'm going to show you what I personally often do, and it's a little hacky, but it's practical. And I do this just because, as I said, I have wasted so much time when I mess things up at the Git command line in my early days. So what I might do is, if I go, say I've been pushing things, and I'm going to go onto my repository. Sorry, I'm getting back to where I was. Get back here. So I'm here in my new package. And a nice little feature here is that you can go onto your commits. And let's say I'm like, okay, I know when the file was, it was back here is where the file was in the status where I liked it. And if you go all the way over here, you can browse the repository in that point in history. So I can just click that. And now I'm right in the status that code was at that point. And I know that file was good then. So I can go on and look at it. And I can just copy. And then when I go back over here, I can go in here and paste. Okay, so that's really hacky. I mean, people who are really good with Git would be like, oh, Eli, that is so terrible. That's not how that's supposed to work. But I would tell you that often for me personally, that is going to be so much faster. I know exactly where I'm trying to get to. I just do it that way. All right, so then I'd have to submit that. That's just a practical thing there. I felt kind of bad just showing you the sort of hacky, but a way that's like not gonna like mess up your repository at all. But I felt a little bad about that, so I also show how to do that with the Git command line, just for I don't know, just to show you that. But yeah, so I think that is it. You can go on here to the website, read more about this. I show you all the examples I've been working on. And then at the bottom, just reiterate this workflow to minimize your headaches. You know, start out small and get used to working with a simple branch. And you've got to train yourself to do this pulling from the remote and pushing before you start working at the beginning of the day. I still forget that sometimes, and every so often I create problems for myself, but I do it most of the time. But it takes a while to get used to that, making sure everything's up to date. And like as I showed you in GitHub Desktop, this makes it a little easier because I get in the habit of looking at this at the beginning of the day and seeing, okay, do I have any changes I need to commit? And I'll deal with these things on here. You know, oh, okay, I got to pull that down. I'll just sort of get everything synced up at the beginning of the day. It's just part of my workflow. All right. Okay, I'm going to stop there and let's see. Where's my chat? Okay. Sorry, my chat has decided to disappear for the moment. We can't see you. Oh, wait, no. Chat, open up. Okay. I'm trying to find, okay, here it is. Here it is. Great, great. Okay, so I'm going to stay on as usual and answer any questions that you have. If you don't have any questions, I will see some of you next week. And next week, we're doing something totally different. And I'm going to do an intro session on ggplot, plotting with ggplot. For those of you who use ggplot already and are experienced, this is not going to be useful. This is directed towards people who don't use ggplot or who have tried ggplot and feel like, how does this work? This is so confusing. This will get you started using it and make it less confusing, I hope. All right. I see that Lisa had a question about raw and blame. And I'm going to show, if Lisa, if you're still on, I'm going to show you what that is. So raw is, you can just click it. It's just going to show you the raw code. It's kind of useful to know about if you need to, like, especially like if you're scraping in data files. I use this all the time. Like if people post CSV, I'm going to scrape in from the raw. And then blame. I've never used blame, actually. I use raw all the time. I have no idea what blame is. Can't help you there. Raw I wouldn't ever use for my own code. Raw I'm going to use when I'm using something from somebody else's repository. And like I said, I'm usually using it if I am trying to scrape in data. I'm going to have, like, if I were, you can like do read.csv. You can pass in a URL instead of a file. So I would, so if I'm scraping off a CSV file from a GitHub repository, what I want is I am going to want that raw URL. And then I can just paste that into read.csv and scrape that into a data frame for me. All right. Any other questions? Oh, okay, Brian. Yeah, blame. Looks like, yeah, I have no idea. I've never had a blame. Some of these things are maybe more useful if you have like a lot of people working on a file at the same time, or a team working on a code project. Another feature of of GitHub that I use sometimes is this projects. I'm trying to use it. Yeah, hasn't been all that useful. I do try using it, but Yeah. Okay. And then I am going to close this down and see you next week. All right. Thanks, Stuart. You can turn off the recording.
Okay.